Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen with the Flint and Genesee Chamber of Commerce. We're joined by a really awesome panel of people this afternoon. Before I introduce everyone, I want to just let you know that the webinar is being recorded. We're going to share this on our website afterwards, and you can check it out on Facebook or YouTube after. There will be time at the end for Q&A, but feel free to submit those questions as we go in the comments section of Facebook, and we will review those at the end. I'd like to introduce, you won't see them all just yet, but we'll bring everyone up after the presentation portion. Tyler Rossmaessler, he's our Director of Economic Development at the Flint Genesee Chamber. Dan Casey, CEO of the Economic Development Alliance of St. Clair County. Justin Horvath, President and CEO of the Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership. Again, thank you to everyone who's joining us today. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Janis.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Janis Mueller, and I'm the Regional Director for the Michigan Small Business Development Center. We are a statewide agency funded by tax dollars to help small businesses. And under normal circumstances, we're here helping your businesses grow and navigate strengths in HR and management and financial issues. And we have become the go-to place for COVID-19 information. So when Tyler and the crew asked us to participate in this webinar, we were immediately on board because we know that information is very fluid and very scary. Next slide, please. Stephen, can you pull the, thank you. Our website is the sbdcmichigan.org. If you type in that, at the very top is a banner that says COVID-19. This is a place where all up-to-date information is housed for COVID-19. All the different programs that are out, there's synopsises on there. There are links to the actual sites where you need to go apply. And as you scroll down, if you go from the main page, you can look for consulting. As each individual business is facing its own challenges and its own criteria for the various programs, you may wish to talk to a counselor. We have a team of consultants across the 7 counties of the Thumb area, and we're willing to help. Just fill out a simple application and we'll be with you shortly. We've also been recording a lot of COVID-based webinars, timely information, to get information out to you, the business owners, and to you, the people that are struggling the mightiest. So there's registration for training and webinars as well. And again, all work is free of charge and confidential. Next slide, please. Okay, we're all in the same boat together. We have been facing a very large disaster at COVID-19. So there's a lot of information. Information is coming out at a political level. There's talking heads in Washington telling you how great these programs are, and it's up to you, the business owner, to figure out which path do you take. So there's a number of programs that are currently out. So in the next, bit of time, we're going to go through each of the programs. The first program I'd like to talk about is the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan. You'll hear it referred to as EIDL or EIDL. This is a working capital loan at an interest rate of 3.75 that can be stretched over a term of up to 30 years. This is an SBA direct lending and includes a cash advance of up to $10,000, which can be forgiven if you're utilizing the money for the correct usage per the regulations. And we have been told as early as yesterday that that cash advance would be towards payroll. So if you apply for an EIDL, it is a working capital loan that they determine based on your fixed costs that you will need about 6 months of working capital to get through this crisis. It's a simple 4-page application, kind of yes and no questions. There's 2 financial questions that are asked. One is the revenue in 2019 and your revenue this year, as well as your cost of goods. The website is listed here on the PowerPoint, and I'm sure that we can share that PowerPoint with you guys after the session, but it's all online. Again, this is directly with the SBA, and it is a loan for working capital. Has to be used for working capital, paying the bills that currently exist in your business, paying down mortgage, paying payroll. It has a built-in 12-month deferral. The government has recognized that businesses are going to struggle when we all get released from our homes. It's going to take a little bit of building to get to the current status of where you were, February. So there is no payments due until a year from when you close on the loan. We are encouraging everyone who is a small business to apply for this loan. Check the box that asks if you would like a cash advance, and then wait until you see the terms of the loan and what the payment length is to make sure that you're going to be able to manage it in your business. Every business is going to manage their cash a little differently. So we just want you to look at this. If you apply and are awarded this loan, you do not have to take it. You're not forced to take it. There are no fees associated with it. We have been notified as of this morning, there's a lot of phishing attempts. So make sure when you're looking at things, you are getting direct email from the SBA, not some fake organization pretending to be the SBA. I just wanted to warn people about that. Let's say you're a business and you're not sure you need this working capital. You've got a little bit of cash, you're managing your business right now, whether you're open or shut, you're not hurting as desperately as somebody else. You can wait and apply until December 31st of 2020. We suggest you apply a little bit before that because we know the SBA will take a while to close. But these applications are open until December 31st of 2020. Next slide. The next program is the Small Business Debt Relief Program. Any business that currently has an SBA loan, whether it's a 7A, a 504, a microloan, or a community advantage loan, receives debt relief. The SBA is paying the next 6 months principal, interest, and fees. This started on March 27th. That was the last day that an SBA bank could accept payment. After that date, they need to call the borrower every time they get a check and ask if you want it applied to the loan principal or if you would like that money back. So if you hold an SBA loan, you do not have to make a payment for 6 months. This is not deferred. The SBA is paying the bank. So that can give you some immediate cash flow movement because you're held up, you're not making that payment. It's not deferred, it's not getting tacked on the back of the loan. SBA is paying the bank direct. So make sure that if you sent a check after the 27th, that you find out what's happening with that check, because if you need that cash to keep afloat during this COVID crisis, the bank has to issue it back. And again, that's directly with the bank. The banks are managing that. Each individual bank is managing their SBA loans. So if you have any questions on that, make sure you talk to your lender. Next slide. Payroll protection plan. This is a little bit complicated because there's so much press about it, and we just want to break it down and make it really simple. This is lending through SBA approved banks. So the loan application goes directly through the bank. If your bank is an SBA lender, you can go through your bank and apply for this. This plan is only open until June 30th. This provides 100% federal guaranteed loans for employers who maintain their payroll during this emergency. It covers a total of 8 weeks of payroll. And payroll is including the payroll costs, wages, taxes, benefits, tips, vacations, sick pay, and retirement costs. Does not include bonuses. So what you'll do as a business owner is you'll look at last year's payroll and all the wages and accruement that comes into the term payroll under this program. You'll work with your bank and they'll figure out your average monthly payroll. And they will multiply that times 2.5. That's just a standard formula. Every single business is being managed the same way in this program. That determines your loan amount. The loan is a 2-year loan, but the first 6 months are deferred and the interest rate is only 0.5%. Next slide. You can use the additional money above payroll to cover things like debt on a mortgage, debt on or interest on your mortgage, interest on any other debt that you have, lease payments for the space that you're occupying, or utility payments. So let's take an example. I'm just going to take a really simple example. You figure out your payroll and you figured out all the buckets that fit in the term payroll, and it was $120,000 last year. So divide that by 12, you'll get a monthly payroll amount. So in our little simple example, $10,000 becomes our monthly payroll. You multiply that by 2.5, which is the standard formula, and you would borrow $25,000. So you are required to pay your employees for 8 weeks payroll. The 8 weeks starts when you receive the money for this loan. Okay, so you're going to have payroll sheets that prove that you were paying these people. So they've given you money to pay people, whether they're working at your house or working at your business or they're sitting at home, you're keeping them on the payroll. They are not allowed to collect unemployment at this time. If you have already laid them off and they're on temporary unemployment, you would call them back. So then you just keep your paperwork for the next 8 weeks that show that these people worked for you. And then the extra $5,000, because we borrowed more than the 2 months worth of payroll, you can use toward interest on debt, lease, and utilities. Okay. This is a forgivable loan. The bank is going to require verification that anybody you brought back did not go on unemployment during the 8 weeks that you were there, that you actually physically paid them. So there's a verification process, and the bank will forgive this loan. The banks probably will take 30 to 40 days to do the vetting process at the end of this, which is why there's no payments for the 6 months. You can use this in conjunction with your working capital, which is your EIDL. However, think about the dates. Let's say you close on the PPP on 4/15. 8 weeks, assuming normal, it would be 6/15. The money that you get for working capital payroll would need to start on 6/16 outside of the 8 week, because you cannot use the money for the same purposes because you're getting it from 2 different buckets. So we want to make sure that you're keeping clean records and making sure you know your dates. Okay, it's very important to understand the dates of when you're going to receive the monies and how you're going to utilize the payment on those. But this payroll protection plan is the government paying you to keep your people as employed so that when they release us from our homes, they come to work and you're ready to start going. And if you didn't have the cash, you use your EIDL money to keep the working capital going for the next couple of months. Okay, next program, please. They've recently introduced an express bridge loan. This is an SBA guaranteed bridge loan financing for emergency basis. You can get $25,000 quickly from your bank under an SBA Express loan. It's a bridge loan waiting for you to get your EIDL loan in. Okay, so this starts, it must be made within 6 months of the effective date of the legislation, which is March 25th, so within 6 months, so 9/25. SBA lenders who deal with express loans are the only ones who can make this. Most 7A banks will be offering this program. There is a term of 7 years. The lenders determine the rate, but it's prime plus 6.75. The bank determines that, but it can't go over prime plus 6.75. Before you guys panic, wow, that's a long term, you can have a 36-hour approval and get the money in your account. Remember, if you applied for the EIDL loan and you get the EIDL loan, you can repay it with the EIDL money. This gets you the cash fast. If anybody on the stream has applied for an EIDL loan, we heard today that they're 3 to 4 weeks back on even approvals, and they're buried because when they started the SBA process, it was designed for an emergency. Example, a hurricane wipes out a couple of states. The entire nation is on this and every business is applying, so they have a huge backlog. So be patient. I know that they put out that the grants would be put out within 3 days, and they're struggling to do that. So I just want people to realize that they're trying to work through this as quickly as possible, but you're not going to have the money in your hot little hands by the end of the week. So if you are coming up against some cash flow crisis, the bridge loan is an opportunity to get that cash that you're going to get on an EIDL loan quickly. It can really help you bridge the gap if you've got a landlord demanding your lease payments and you just don't have the cash. So again, this is something that can also be leveraged to help you move forward. Okay, next slide. There are several small business tax provisions highlighted in the CARES Act. I'm going to very briefly touch on these because I'm not allowed to give tax or legal advice, and I'm not a professional. This is an employee retention credit. None of the tax credits can be used with the PPP loan, that payroll protection loan. This is only if you are able to keep your employees working, did not use the PPP loan, and want a refundable tax credit for 50% of the wages that they were eligible for during COVID-19 crisis. Okay, you can suspend or partially do you can suspend the payment on these taxes partially or fully, and make the payments over the time frame of 21 and 22. There are IRS rules on this, and again, if you go to the IRS and they have the actual rules and regulations in play there. This is something where we strongly encourage you, if you're not using PPP and you still have your staff working and you're able to keep them working from home, that you think about this and work with your CPA to make sure that you can benefit from this. This is something like, for instance, this will be eligible for a university. I work at Kettering University. They're paying us even though we're super essential right now, but the other people are still teaching classes. They're paying them. So therefore, they're going to be eligible under this tax credit. Next, please. Okay, so that is the quickest breakdown of the EIDL loan, the grant, the PPP program, the debt relief, and the taxes that I can help. I think it's really important that every business is going to have a bunch of questions, and I will do my best on this webinar to answer them. But remember, our website has a lot of answers. We have a lot of training, and we have the ability to do counseling. And counseling will be us talking on the phone, sending emails back and forth, and strategizing how best to leverage each of these programs based on your individual needs. Now, I guess we're going to do some questions.
I know that we have some questions from amongst the panel. Tyler, would you like to go first?
Yeah. Hey, Janis, thank you for sharing this information. Can you talk about eligibility for EIDL? Who's eligible, and what should a company do if they're not eligible?
Okay. If they are eligible, they have to have less than 500 employees. They have to be impacted by COVID-19, and they have to be a U.S. corporation. And those are the criteria for an eligible company. There are some size rules that SBA has, and those come up in the question. They'll say, do you have more than 500 employees? Then you're not going to be eligible for the small business loans, and there's other resources that may be out there for you. I would say 99% of the clients that we are seeing are eligible. Very rarely, it might be somebody that has foreign ownership or is owned by another affiliation that prohibits it.
So foreign ownership is not qualified?
It gets a little complex. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. But if you're a 99% owned by a foreign company, you're not a small business in the U.S., so you'd have to, deal with that. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes. And what should they do if they're not eligible for an EIDL? What would you
If they're
recommend?
not eligible, see if the criteria, which again, the banks have, which are going to be size criteria and affiliation rules that are required by SBA, if they're able to do PPP. If not, they're going to check on there's a lot of people that may not be served by this if they're not eligible, but they have to be a small business based on the definition.
Okay.
Dan.
Yes, thank you, Janis. I've been receiving a couple of questions that relate to whether or not a business can apply for both the EIDL and the PPP programs at the same time. In fact, there's one business that I'm working with that said that their loan officer from their bank told them that they could not apply for both programs.
Okay, based on the direction that we've had, yes, you are able to apply both. You cannot use the money for the exact same thing. So if I get an EIDL loan, which is for 6 months working capital, and I close on that loan June 20th, that money is to be used June 20th forward for the next 6 months to help you grow or move your business forward, okay? You also have a PPP loan that closed on 4/15, you're paying for 8 weeks of payroll. So that 8 weeks of payroll would be from 4/15 to 6/15. So you're showing PPP only on the 8 weeks, and you're showing EIDL going forward or before the event took place with PPP. So you can apply for both. If you have already received your EIDL, you will be asked that when you apply for your PPP. If you have not received it, we have been told, go forward and apply for both and navigate it as you get them and decide how you're going to use them. But make sure that your reporting is very specific on how you used which bucket of money for which time frame, which employees, which payroll.
And just a follow-up question on that. Can you use the PPP money for the first 8 weeks of payroll and then use EIDL money for fall payroll that occurs after that 8 weeks expires?
We have been told, yes, that is how it can be used, as long as you're very clear on the frame and how it's been done.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Justin.
All right, Janis, thank you
Be nice
for
to me,
all of your.
Justin.
What's that?
Be kind. Be kind.
No, I will. Thank you for all of your great work on this, and also a shout out to our consultant in Shiawassee County, Cheryl Peterson, who's been doing a lot of work serving our clients. So thank you all for your great work.
Thank you.
I actually have a couple things. I'm getting messages being sent to me on my phone during this because some folks cannot log into the chat on YouTube, but a couple things related to PPP qualifications. So you mentioned, as far as eligible use of the funds, you can't give bonuses, but I've heard from several companies that are looking to see if they could use the, I'll call it excess capital, because you can get 2.5 times payroll, to be able to increase the wage scale, maybe not a bonus, but increase the wage scale, almost a hazard pay type situation. So is that a viable usage? And then another one I just got also on PPP is when you try to bring people back, do you have to get them all back? I mean, is it an all or a none type thing? What if only some of them come back? How does that work?
Okay. First, let's talk about the increase of pay. If you're going to bring them back and pay them extra, the regulations state a minimum of 75% of the loan has to be used for payroll. So if payroll becomes excess to that 100%, you can pay them that. That is what we heard on our webinar this morning with a legal expert. Okay. So if you're going to bring them back and pay them, you also have to consider what happens if they got that extra pay, because as a business, you're looking at sustainability of your business. So you paid them an extra, let's call it 600, because that's what everybody's magic number is because of the money on unemployment. If you paid them that extra money, what's going to happen when you go back to their old wages? So you need to think about that as well. But according to what we heard with SBA, yes, you are allowed to increase their wages to up to 100% of that loan, could be 100% of payroll.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
And
the
the
other,
second question,
go
the
ahead.
second
Yep.
question you said, if you bring back people, and let's say your payroll is based on 20 people working for you, and you decide you're bringing back only 18, they will prorate your forgivable loan based on the number you brought back. Okay. So you're not gonna, you're not gonna forgive the whole payroll amount. They're gonna do a proration of that number.
Okay. Very good.
Excellent. Any others? I wanted to say thank you to everyone on my team, and most of them are likely on this stream as well. We have a team of 5 of us that are managing thousands and thousands of business requests, and we are doing it tirelessly and with amazing passion and mental acuity in very difficult times. So we have representatives working with businesses based out of Flint, based out of Grand Blanc, based out of Port Huron, based out of Shiawassee, and we cover the entire thumb. So all 7 counties are represented. We are working with everybody from, agriculture to restaurants to giant manufacturing companies. So we are really grateful for the support with the EDOs and all our team partners sharing the information and getting people the right information to make decisions for their business and to survive this together.
Thanks to all of you. This is, as I mentioned, kind of a first to team up with the I-69 Thumb region to bring this content to you. And I have to imagine that we'll have more of these conversations ongoing. But if there's nothing else from the panelists as far as questions go, I'm going to move to our chat. The first question I see is the commercial banking is with a non-SBA credit union. Where can they apply for PPP?
Okay, they can apply to any lender in their community that does SBA, but each bank determines how they're going to handle the new influx of business. Some lenders are saying you need to be an account holder. Some are saying you need to be a depositor. Some are saying you need to have a loan with them. Each bank is making that decision. So depending on where you are, we do have a list. It's getting updated. I know that our friends in Lapeer are actively calling me 5 times a day to get on the list. They have been updating the list with SBA daily on who is participating. We know things like PNC Bank, we know Huntington, we know Chase, we know Bank of America. If you are an SBA lender, it's important if you're on this call, if your name is not on the list that one of your EDOs can supply to you, we want to make sure that you get on that list and we can help you do that.
Anything from anyone else?
Just from a Genesee County perspective, we've been doing some outreach. I would say that I've only heard of one credit union that is not a part of the program. I do know most of the banks are saying, yes, we will take new clients, but we're going to have to get through our existing clients first. So pretty much every bank universally across Genesee County that we've talked to has said, we'll take new clients, if not at the moment.
I appreciate that. We are seeing a huge influx. This has a lot of press behind it. It's an amazing program. Never have we been told by the government to borrow money and it'll get forgiven. This has a total allotment of $350 billion. And I can't believe I just said only has. They have already, as of this morning at 7 o'clock, already loaned $10 billion out in this program. So be patient, keep going. I don't think the money's going to run out, but I've already heard from watching the news at lunch, they are already talking about adding or double amount of money. And so be patient. The banks are working extremely hard. They've had to rewrite software. SBA had to rewrite regulations from the minute the president signed the CARES Act. SBA had to rewrite all its rules and regulations. FDIC had to rewrite its rules and regulations. Banks had to rewrite their internal software and programming. IRS is rewriting rules. So this is impacting so many major components and infrastructure pieces. So be patient. Not all banks were ready to go on April 3rd. Several have come on board since that time, and we are getting calls every day that there are more and more coming online. It is a very simple process for a bank who is not an SBA lender to get into this program. It is a very rapid application and an expedited process for any lenders who are interested in being in the program by signing in through SBA.
Thanks, Janis. Next question, what about seasonal businesses for PPP? If they only work 4 months a year, does that work, or is it an average of 12 months?
They will take into account you can work with your banker on that. There is a formula that I don't have memorized right in front of me that takes into account the average number of people that worked. So they may look at when they were seasonal. You know, I know that we are impacting lawn care companies. They stopped them from working. So they are going to look from February for 6 months to figure out what your average cost is, to figure out your temporary employees. So they have a formula in place to help with that. So it's really important that you don't discount using PPP if you have seasonal workers.
Next question. Let's see. Does this apply to employees who are 1099?
Okay, the idle loan can apply for a 1099 because you're a contracted employee, so therefore you're running your own business. It's going to be based on your employee identification number and what your working capital needs are. So depending on the type of 1099, and I'm going to immediately think of a hairstylist. So often they rent booths and they pay $400 a month to rent a space. You are technically an independent contractor, but you don't have a lot of working capital needs for the idle loan. We have been told that independent contractors can apply under the PPP starting April 10th. They are trying to get the larger businesses through the program first, and then we'll open it up to independent contractors. Also, it might behoove the independent contractor to look at what they would get on unemployment versus what they will get under PPP and make the best choice based on the dollar figures that you're going to compare.
Okay, thank you. Is the bridge loan done through the bank or is it through SBA?
The bridge loan is done through an SBA lender, and it's an express bridge loan. And they would say, I've applied for an idle loan and I need cash now. Oops, sorry, I didn't sing that. See, you got my joke.
I need it now.
Yes.
Why are banks making the time to get an appointment days out? I assume it's a capacity.
Okay. It is a capacity issue. They have moved every single person that works for the bank to help fund loans. If you go for a drive to the grocery store, how many businesses do you go past? Those are all going to a bank that's going to do this process. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses lined up to get this. Mm-hmm. So you are going to have to be patient with them. It may be that the bank has some internal issues with processing the paperwork. They're having some EDOC challenges with the SBA downloading stuff. So that might be the issue, but be patient. There's thousands of people in the pipeline. It's kind of like you're on a backcountry road and all of a sudden we need a 25-lane highway. And banks are ramping up as quickly as possible. They're doing everything in a telecommute status so that they're not infringing on social distance. And so it's just a matter of navigating the system, and they're getting better every day at it. We have heard a lot of really positive news on approvals today, anywhere from 30,000 to 750,000. So it's a really impressive program. People are anxious to take advantage of it. Mm-hmm.
I think I read, Tyler, here locally, Huntington Bank is moving to 7 days a week during this crisis.
Yep.
Let's see. These might be repetitive, so bear with me. Where do you apply for an express loan, bank, or SBA?
That would be at an SBA lender.
Okay. Do we know what the conditions for forgiveness are on the EIDL grant?
We have been told as of yesterday that to be forgiven for the grant of up to $10,000, you would have to show that it was used to pay payroll. That is all we know. We do not have that in writing. If you're getting an advance on a working capital line, we're questioning why it has to be used for payroll, but we also don't know what parameters that means. When do I have to use it in September when I really need it? Because it's taken me 3 months to get up to where I was in February. And so we are waiting. As I said, this is a very fluid. They are writing regulations as the actual program is going out. You know, Tyler keeps saying we're flying the plane and we're building it at the same time. So be patient. Before you sign on a dotted line for the EIDL, ask. You do not have to sign if you've been awarded this and they say, hey, let's close until you sign, but never sign anything that you're not reading exactly how you need to use it.
Good. Next question, is it possible to get an EIDL and then have debt relief cover the payment for 6 months? If so,
No.
How does that work since EIDL doesn't have a payment for 12 months?
EIDL does not have a payment for 12 months. It is a loan separate from the debt relief program. The debt relief program is 7A 504, microloans and community advantage. It does not and will not extend to EIDL. So if, for example, you're in North Carolina or you're in Michigan and you got flooded and you got an EIDL, you're not able to use debt relief on that past loan. You're not able to use it on this loan.
Okay. All my paperwork is completed. It seems as though this is not as smooth and easy of a process. If we do not get the loan due to all funds being used, should we go ahead and have staff apply for unemployment?
I'm assuming the loan you're talking about is the PPP. I would apply and work through it. I don't think they're going to run out of money. If they've only done 10 billion, there's 350 billion. So even if they double every day, we've got some time, and your appointment's 3 weeks out or 3 days out, 4 days out. If not, I believe the president already said he's going to expand it, and they're already working on it in Congress. I would make that decision based on your cash flow. If there's going to be a delay in whatever package number 4 looks like, and they've expanded all the use of PPP, I would lay off my employees to conserve cash, allow them to collect unemployment. When they release the 4th iteration, which we don't know what it looks like, use that to bring them back.
Okay. How about startup funds?
No, because you have to have been in business before, I want to say March 15th, I believe is the date that the Michigan went into a state of emergency.
Okay.
They do not fund startup funds. The EIDL cannot be used for lost sales. It cannot be used for expansion or equipment. It is only working capital.
Okay. Let's see. How long is it taking after we apply for the SBA loan?
We do not have a firm date. As of this morning, they said they had a backlog of 3 weeks, and we are approaching that rapidly, but I haven't heard of any client in my region that has gotten accepted, much less set a closing date. So I would plan 3 to 5 weeks just based on my knowledge of SBA for the last 14 years.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Will you speak to any application opportunity differences between for-profits and nonprofits?
Yes. With the EIDL loan, there is a difference in interest rate. The nonprofits pay 2.75 on the loan that could be spread over 30 years. The for-profit businesses pay 3.75. With regard to PPP, the plan works the same for both sides, and it is exactly the same whether you have 499 employees or 2. And so there is no difference with the faith-based or the charity.
Thank you. Justin, you have some questions?
Yeah, so there's a few people that are not in the chat, but I've gotten actually 5 different texts from different companies. So I don't know if Janis, you want to write these down, or I can just go through them one at a time?
We can go through them one at a time because then my brain can manage it.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep up.
Okay, some of these should be pretty short answers. I have one company that just had a retirement for a pretty significant position. They're a very small company, so they're concerned how is that going to impact the calculations and their ability to use PPP.
Okay, they're going to look at last year's number and they're going to give you 2.5 times that. Are you going to be replacing that person and bringing them back, or not bringing them back, but hiring somebody new? Because you can retain your current staff or possibly hire somebody. It's not based on Bob Smith's name, who was there last year. It's based on the number of FTE. So when you go for forgivable, if you had 5 people last year and you have 4 this year, you're only going to be able to get forgiven for the 4. Okay, based on that, you're going to get less forgiven than if you brought back 5 or you hired a 5th person to cover that retiring person's job. I have not dealt with this specifically on it, but that's what they're telling us, is that it's based on FTE. So if you had 5 this year and you'll have 4 this year, you're getting less forgiven than the 75% of payroll.
But there still might be a strategy in there, because if you can borrow more, even though you had 5 last year, you might only have 4 this year, but it's only at 1%, right?
Yeah, it's 1% over 2 years, and there's a strategy. And remember, you could then refinance. Let's say it was a bigger number than you wanted to deal with. You got the forgiven portion of the PPP. You still could refinance under a 7A if that was something that worked for you. And that would have 6 months paid for by the SBA under that debt relief, as long as you signed and closed on that loan before September 25th. So again, strategy is really important as you're working these programs.
Okay, what about employees that are paid on commission?
Employees paid on commission are covered under PPP. Commission is covered. Fees, tips, health benefits, taxes, all covered under what is called payroll under the PPP program. So very important, because they're going to look at that and make that determination. The only thing not is bonuses. So if you have somebody that works for you and you give them a commission and you saw what they made last year, they're going to take that into account for this year. You would pay them that base commission or whatever that would be. You are covered on that.
Along with that, I got another company that asked, the owner draws, they don't get a paycheck from the company, but they take a draw. Does that fall under payroll, PPP?
If they can prove that it was used for the purpose. So that is something where you're going to be working with your bank lender to determine how your draw was and how you show that. Was it cash that you took out, and that it's listed as, how you manage it through your taxes and how you can document it. I am not the expert on that. We had a relatively long and arduous legal discussion on that this morning, and I am referring that right to the bank to help determine that portion, because it's going to be based on the taxes and use.
Okay. Can you use the PPP to pay for the furloughed people's portion of benefit costs to avoid them having to go on COBRA, yet they would still be on unemployment?
I do not believe so. The entire program is meant to get people off the unemployment and into the business. Although I've not been asked that specifically, I can put that out to SBA to ask, but I'm pretty certain it's going to be a no.
Okay. And then the last one I have right now was a question on the interest rate. The original was 0.5. It was revised to 1. Some publications stated 4%. Exactly what is the interest rate for the PPP program?
For the PPP, we have been told that it's 1. And the congressional document that you're talking about said up to 4. It also said 0.5. So as of everything we're told, it's at 1%, and it's a 2-year package. And don't worry too hard for your bankers. They're getting paid by the SBA on a percentage of the amount of loans that are being done. So that 1% is all that's there. There's no extra fees on that PPP. You shouldn't be charging anything extra, but we've been told it's 1%.
Justin?
I actually just got one more. And I think you did mention this earlier, but to the SBA, those that have existing SBA debt, 7A, 504, just to clarify, they are paying that to the bank for the next 6 months, and that is like wipes it off books, or is that they still have to pay that on the back end?
They do not have to pay that. The SBA is paying the next 6 months of existing 7A, 504, and microloans and community advantage loans. You as a business owner should not be sending in a check. If you have questions, call your bank lender and say, is it true that this loan is covered under the CARES Act debt relief portion? They're covering it. It's interest, principal, fees that are the 6 month thing. It is not being tacked onto the back end. The bank actually gets a physical check 30 days from the day of receipt from the bank.
Okay, very good. I'm all set.
Perfect.
All right. As an independent contractor real estate agent, would I apply for these loans?
Yes, would be my answer. You're an independent contractor. If you're running it as a business, which I'm assuming as a real estate agent you are, you can apply for the EIDL loan if you have working capital. I would definitely apply for the PPP and figure out what you made with regards to wages, compensation, and things like that. You as an independent contractor cannot apply for PPP until you have until April 10th. Again, if you just started out in real estate and you didn't sell a whole lot last year, it might be better for you to file for unemployment to find out what your base is, plus that 600 for the federal CARES program. Again, you want to kind of get an estimate of which one's going to benefit you more directly.
Thank you. What do I do if I cannot find a local bank to do SBA loan?
Okay. Each of the EDOs have a list, and we're adding to that list. I know that like in Lapeer, Lakestone is grabbing people right and left, and they want everybody to know they're doing it. And if it means you have to go somewhere else, it'll take a new client, you need to do some research on that. We do have a list that we're putting out. SBA is doing their best to update it to make sure that people are getting in the pipeline and able to benefit from that in their community. And so it's just a matter of on their websites and seeing what the parameters are and if they're participating in PPP and if they'll allow non-clients to participate with the bank.
Okay.
I just wanted to add too that what we are advising our companies is that they contact their bank initially to find out whether they're able to or interested in processing PPP loans. And if they're not, then those companies can request the list from us and we'll provide it to them.
Thank you.
What do you do if you have a business with a bank and they do not get back with you about the PPP program? Same answer?
Same answer is I would, remember they're inundated. They're switching every single person in the bank over to help manage these PPP loans. I would try and work your relationship, whether it's a phone call. I don't know how the banks are forwarding calls, if they're in their offices or not. If you have a relationship with someone at the bank, email them to see if you can get an answer. If you're not getting any positive feedback or any feedback whatsoever, I would contact your EDOs and see who they have that they could recommend.
Economic Development Organization.
Okay, sorry.
No, not for you. I just wanted to put that out for everyone, just in case.
Sorry, I apologize. I live in the world of acronyms, and so I spew them out like everybody else, so I apologize.
Yeah, our certified tourism ambassador folks would be proud right there. Is PPP for-profit, or I think it's both, right?
It is both, correct.
Let's see. I have a business, rent and utilities due right now. If I use my current capital to pay my bills, can the EIDL be used to replace these payments?
I do not know, but it's working capital going forward usually. So I don't know. But what I would have that person do is register for our services, because we have a lot of ways to help them negotiate management of their cash right now. First thing I would recommend, have you contacted the landlord to find out if they will defer payments or suspend payments. Landlords are able to apply to all of these loans as well. So if they're getting bank forgiveness for, let's say their property is under an SBA loan, they're not making payments for 6 months and are very positive to help other businesses. So the first thing I would recommend to that person asking the question is reach out to your landlord. Can they work with you? Okay, we want you conserving cash. If you are open now, you are probably at a 90% off revenue number. Cash is king. You need it so that when we are free to leave our homes and go back and shop, we are all starting our businesses from scratch. It's not going to be like it was March 1st. And so we are cautioning people, manage as much cash as you can in your business. And we're telling them, manage it in your personal life too. If you can negotiate it now, because you're going to need every bit of cash to go forward from June to the future in whatever the new economy looks like. Now is the time, if you are idle or you are down a lot of revenue, to start thinking about strategically planning how your business is going to adapt to the new future, because it's all changing. And now is the time to start strategizing and planning and putting those pieces in play.
Can the EIDL payroll be used for the self-employed person's draw? I think we heard that one already.
I believe it can. Yes, you can use your draw on an EIDL. I got that answer directly with SBA in writing, so I know that that is a yes. You cannot use it for, if you go under PPP, you cannot use the same money for the same exact time frame and draw.
If you applied for EIDL before yesterday and didn't know about the cash advance only being used for payroll, should they reapply?
No, if you check the box for cash advancement, you don't, if you get it, ask SBA when they say, hey, congratulations, we're putting this money in your bank, how that can be used. There is a lot of question on whether it's really going to be just for payroll or if it's really for working capital. When in doubt, keep the money in your bank account. You can always pay it back. There's no prepayment penalty on that, but you make sure you know what the parameters are when you accept those funds.
Can we use the money for estimated tax payments for 2021?
I do not believe so. This is for working capital for 2020. 6 months. I don't expect us to be locked up after June 15th, I'm hoping. So that would be, yeah, God willing, out even sooner. So based on that, no. Estimated taxes.
PPP, 2.5 times payroll for what period going forward?
They do it based on an average of last year. They're making it simple, 2019 records. If you have that, show that, and that's what they're making the call on. And that includes wages, taxes, health benefits, sick time, vacation time, retirement benefits, commissions, tips. Okay, all get pooled into what I'm terming payroll. Okay, they take that total sum and say, oh, there's what it was for the year divided by 12. That is your monthly payroll. So if that number is 120,000 for the year, your monthly payroll is 10 times 2.5 gets you your loan of 25,000.
If our employees don't want to come back to work because they're anticipating an extra $600 per week on top of their unemployment, and we have received our PPP, what do we do?
You tell them that they are being called back because they were temporarily laid off due to COVID-19. If they refuse, you file a MyWAM that you have called them back and they've refused, and they will not get their benefits.
There you have it.
The boss.
You're the boss.
You're the boss. You got to make a decision because you're doing this for the betterment of your business. You're going to still pay them. Let's say you're shuttered and you've got a salon and they're shuttered and they're sitting at home, but you're paying them. They're back on your payroll so that the day they say, woohoo, we're open, they're ready to rock and roll and hit the pavement. If not, it's just like any other temporary layoff. If I'm called back and I refuse the job, I am going to cancel my unemployment. Okay. Have to make the call to Michigan Unemployment to tell them that you offered them the job back. It was a temporary layoff. You've called them back. They've refused and you want to stop the payment.
Yeah. Okay. If you pay quarterly income tax, is that covered under PPP? Tyler, I see you shaking your head.
Well, I think that and I know Janis is not a tax attorney, so she's not going to give you tax advice.
I know.
But
I was like,
the first kind of legislation that came out in response to the COVID delayed some taxes, gave credit for some taxes, and also allowed you to use the taxes you would have paid in each quarter for working capital. So I think the best advice is talk to your tax attorney. But from what my understanding is that there has been some delays both at the federal and even at the state level. And Justin and Dan, I'll let you guys weigh in if I'm incorrect.
Good. Okay. As a sole proprietor of a hair salon, are the owner wages that are not included in regular payroll to be added into the totals?
yes, I'm assuming for PPP. Yes, as long as they can clearly see them on the documentation you're providing to the bank, which is your payroll, annualized payroll with the number of people and the wages and the total bucket of payroll.
Okay. Let's see. So with PPP, we can apply, but it's not a done deal until the loan documents are signed, correct?
No, that's EIDL. EIDL, you have a closing document. I do not know on PPP, but I think when you fill out your app that they're moving forward, and then based on the conversation I had with the client, they got approved, and then they have a closing set of documents. So there will be closing documents that they get for the PPP as well. Sorry, I was fielding that one as my brain was spinning.
No, that's okay. Let's see. As a new physician opening a practice since January 2020, what are the best options for us, or are we too new to qualify?
As long as you are in business under EIDL by March 15th, you're going to qualify for that. You're going to have a hard time qualifying under PPP because you show no annualized payroll. So I would apply for EIDL and show your projections going forward. We're not sure how that's going to work, but that's the advice that we've been given. Put it forward to show in EIDL that, hey, I started my business January. I was just ramping up and I just got crushed.
Mm-hmm. We've got 2 minutes. Is it okay with everyone that we keep going? I've still got some questions here.
I'm okay.
Good. Okay, good.
Yeah, keep rolling.
Let's see. A question come through. One of the viewers wants to know if can her employer apply for the loan that covers her salary. She is hourly 1099 office employee whose income is not taxed.
No, because you're a 1099, you're not considered an employee. So I'm assuming this is under PPP. If you're a 1099, and you're not taxed, you're an independent contractor. You can apply as PPP for yourself, showing what your last year's wages and total payroll was, and apply for yourself starting on April 10th. Your employer cannot because you're not an employee, you're a contractor.
Okay. Next question. I'm a business owner with 3 employees. I do owner draws for myself. So with a PPP loan, will I include the owner draw in the calculations? Yes.
Yep, we did talk about that. We're going to have you work with your bank on that to see how that shows through the documents from last year.
Got it.
Under EIDL, yes, you can apply using your owner draw information.
Okay. Do any of you know the status of unemployment benefits for self-employed businesses?
Yes, they're working on it.
Mhm.
They are revamping when the president signed it and said, woohoo, we're all going to get $600. My brother's in the loop from Michigan. So he lost his job. He got his benefit of $351. That's what he's going to get. As soon as the president signed, the state says, yes, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to give you $600. They are now rebuilding the back end of the entire system to manage it. It is all about how it comes in from the federal government, Department of Labor, to the state LEO, Labor and Economic Opportunities. And then they have to revamp the entire program so that they can move forward with it. So they are having delays there because it is a total rewrite of all the regulations at the state of Michigan. So be patient, check the site every day. That big purple banner on the thing that says we're working on it was up as of this morning. I haven't checked it this afternoon.
Okay. I estimated the cash tips for my employees when I applied for PPP. Did I do this correctly?
I don't know, because what did you have last year is how they're going to base the numbers. And having been a waitress in my lifetime, I didn't always tell my boss the truth about what I got. And what you filed on your tax.
You heard it here, folks.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm trying to be a realist. I don't want to blow everybody with smoke. I'm trying to be a realist. So they're going to need documentation of what is real, and they're going to base it based on that.
Okay.
Oh, if that is correct, no, that is going to be your bank's decision, because they're the ones that are signing the loan with you.
Okay. This might be our last one. Being a sole proprietor, taking a draw and paying your own health insurance, that can be a covered thing under this, correct?
Yes, under EIDL. Yes, under PPP, provided that you work with your bank on how they manage raw information.
Okay. Just kidding. Here's another one. As a single member LLC, what would I be best to apply for?
Everything you can would be my answer. My quick answer is apply for the EIDL if you have working capital needs that you're going to have to address over the next 6 months to get started again. Okay. It is a loan. If you get the grant for up to $10,000, that can be forgiven based on the use of it. However, you're still taking on a loan. I can't answer because I don't know what your debt structure is and whether you're making money or not money in your company. So you have to look at how will this loan payment impact you and your sustainability long term. With regard to PPP, if you paid yourself and you need to keep covering your payroll, look at PPP. You're an LLC and you're the only person working there. Compare what you would get under PPP at your current salary and all the pieces and parts of payroll, wages, taxes, healthcare, etc., and then measure that against independent sole proprietor business owners applying for unemployment. So if you terminate yourself temporarily, which one gets you a better benefit? So if you're making over $900 a week, it might be better to go PPP. If you're only paying yourself $300 a week, you might want to file for unemployment because of the extra $600 piece. But again, based on what you did last year is going to be the deciding factor.
Okay. One more. Is there a difference between EIDL loan and the SBA loan?
The EIDL is the SBA loan. It's an economic injury disaster loan, which is run directly through the SBA. So when we're talking SBA loan, it is directly with the SBA. When we're working with SBA banks, they are managing the debt relief portion for 504-7A microloans and community advantage loans, as well as the PPP program, the payroll protection program. So that is with the banks.
PPP, EIDL.
SBA, you know, I'm
Yeah.
starting to write a little jingle so we can all start to dance, but it's a little confusing because the Small Business Administration does direct lending for emergencies. They also work with banks to do supported guaranteed lending for those companies that might not get traditional lending without their support.
This was fantastic. I think we maxed out at 170 or something viewers. Thanks
Good.
to Janis and Tyler and Justin and Dan. Any closing remarks before we?
I have one more question.
You might want to put up that where people can go to find more information from Janis slide, just so everyone has it handy. But I think Dan had a question.
Yeah, I just have one quick one. We can use the PPP, for example, for mortgage or the EIDL for mortgage expenses. However, if you have an equipment loan, for example, or a lease, can you use it for that?
Yes. It is part of your fixed cost would be your loan payments every month. So therefore, if you have an equipment loan or an equipment lease, yes, your EIDL loan will help you pay that. If you get the PPP, you can use the PPP portion to cover the payroll protection portion, can cover the interest on different loans, okay? Just interest only. You can't double dip the same money to the same program, okay?
Great.
But if, you know, pay attention, if you've done an SBA loan in the past, don't make that payment. Make sure you realize it's under debt relief. If you're not sure, talk to your bank.
Any other last minute questions? Let me check one more time. No, this was great.
Great, thank you.
If there's nothing else, thanks everyone. This was recorded. Feel free to reference back to Facebook to watch it again. We'll put it on our site and then we'll share it with all of our EDO, our economic development partners. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.